Hello, everyone. I have another special report for you today. And here is some updated news or information regarding the elections. And I know there's a lot of going back and forth regarding who's winning. And I think the bigger issue is the corruption that's happening. And there's an old adage that says, it ain't over till it's over. So even if they decide to say that the Democratic Party has won, it is still not over because of some of the things that have had the process has been corrupted. And I think that this taints the whole process. This changes the dynamic of the way the U.S. works with any type of elections. Any type of standard is now in question because of what is happening here in the attempt of fleecing the people. And so I think people need to know what's going on. And I personally feel that it's my obligation as a citizen, my obligation as a person with a conscience, and understanding that we have certain rights and freedoms of speech. We're supposed to. That is a universal law, not just a government law. This is the part that people forget. The universe created us. The universe made us free. We are free within ourselves. And there's no one that can control or bind us unless we give in and allow or consent. So we do not consent to any of these activities. So this is how I started off my day. And I watched this video and I was like, well, I mean, why not? And someone could say, well, maybe this is fake. Maybe it's created to... I'll let you decision. But as I said before, and I feel that Biden is not mentally competent to present himself in any professional level, let alone run anything. If there was a major corporation, even a minor corporation, most people would ask him to step down and assert that someone else would, more mentally competent would be able to take over the organization or the company. Nobody seems to be questioning this because they're already assuming, the VP would be taking over, or, Nancy Pelosi. And maybe some people feel okay with her running the country. Here again, I personally don't think that she should be even running her own household the way that she acts. But anyhow, that's my opinion. I'll let you make your own decisions regarding what you feel. So we'll start off with this first video.
Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our administration, the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
He just said we've put together... Let's hear that again.
Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our administration, the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
The voter fraud organization, extensive voter fraud organization in the history. I mean, it just comes out of him. he just says whatever's on his mind. There's no filter, and there's no hiding. And then they just sort of, I don't know, do some kind of hypnosis or mass hypnosis or something, and they just like, oh yeah, yeah, look at this shiny thing over here for right now, and forget about that. And that's what people do. They literally forget the repeated things that he said, and overriding all sensibility in this voting process. Anyhow, here's an interesting, a very very interesting video. I thought, this kind of was some of the things that we were looking at during the evening of the voting, the election.
Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, battleground states, that they were simply going to stop counting. Just stop. Why? That's not how this works. And everyone went to bed. But then they started a little bit later. Why did they stop? Why did they start? And I want to show you a tweet that is heavily...
Absolutely. This, like I said, the whole process has changed as if we've never had an elections before. It looks like everyone's either confused or there's a whole other system that is being conducted. And so, people are equally confused as I was, as what are they doing?
Heavily censored. And I'll explain how it's censored. I'll show it's censored. State of the race in Wisconsin. So you can see on the left-hand side, there's on the bottom axis, it's the time and date and time. So just before, does that say 5 a.m.? I can't quite see it. 6 a.m. Do you see the red line? When they started counting, the red line was clearly beating the blue line until about 5 a.m. And then the blue line just happens to jump exactly enough to beat the red line. Really? But there's another tweet. Can you go to, let's do this together. Go to Donald Trump. So that just happened in the middle of the night. Every single vote that was found in 100,000 plus vote tranche, every single one of them was for Biden. What's the statistical chance of that?
4 a.m, most people are not going to be paying attention to what's going on. So it was a convenient time to be getting back into counting ballots for them.
I put it to you at 0. Now look at this. Work with me here. President of the United States has a question. What is this all about? But you can't see. Twitter has blocked it. They say some or all of the content shared in this tweet is disputed and might be misleading about an election or other civic process. Well, everything is disputed. That's what an election is. Both sides dispute each other, and the people...
That's absolutely right. It's an election, so people are trying to put out information.
will decide. So you can't read it. They blocked it. Now you can click view. And you still can't see it though, can you? You just click view and you can't see it. Okay, click view again. Well, it's a tweet by Matt Walsh who says, this is reason enough to go to court. No honest person can look at this and say it's normal and unconcerning. Okay, before we click on it anymore, let's just look at those words. This is reason enough to go to court. How is that misleading or false or disinformation? It's an opinion. This is reason to go to court. No honest person can look at this and say it's normal and unconcerning. Okay, so where's the fraud? It's all opinions, and it's just saying, come on guys, we got to go to court. How is that? So you've had to click 3 times now to read it. Click on it one more, click on the Matt Walsh thing. And now what he's linked to has been blocked, and you can't see how many times, and you'll notice that something's missing now. How many times has this Matt Walsh tweet been liked, favorited, shared, quoted? They've removed that information. Has this been seen 100 times? 100,000? A million? Why can't we know that? Is it so this doesn't trend or something? This is reason enough to go to court. No, how many times have you clicked now, Justin? 4 times, I think? 4 times. And we still don't know what the president was talking about. He was talking about something that Matt Walsh was talking about. We have now clicked 4 times and we still don't know what they're talking about. Do you know what they're talking about? Okay, click it the 5th time. Okay, 5 clicks. An update gives Biden 100% of new votes, 128,000. So now can you click on that tweet by McOwie?
100% of new votes. Statistically, that's impossible. That it would never ever happen in any scenario of an election where anyone gets 100% of the votes of newfound ballots.
And you'll notice, again, another warning, some or all of the content shared in this is disputed. It might be misleading. So again, you don't know.
And we talk about censorship. This is amazing. The social media, those corporations are censoring the people, but yet saying these are open venues for the public to share.
How many times it's been viewed? You don't have any of those stats on it. So is that 5 or 6 clicks now? That was the 6th click. Now click on the image itself so we can make it a little bit larger. And then can you zoom in even more? Is it possible to zoom in on the image or not really? So what does he mean? Well, we showed another version of the graph a moment ago, but I was watching attentively all night. Yeah, and can you even pump it up just a tiny bit? Thank you. So on the left, you see that Trump, do you see the Trump vote there? This is in Michigan. So now we're talking about Michigan, not Wisconsin. Michigan, the Trump votes, I'm just going to squint a little bit here, were 2.2 million, and the Biden votes were 1.99. Thank you very much. So 2.2 million. I'm just going to jot this down so I don't forget. I'm going to be very precise. 2,200,902. All right? And the Biden votes is 1,992,356. As you can see, that's a fairly significant difference. That's a 5% difference. And as you can see in the bottom right of that little box, 91% or 90.9% of the votes are in. Okay, next slide. So you'll see that now 93.8% of the votes are in. And what's that Trump number? It is exactly what it was in the other slide, 2,200,902. Go to the left again just to show people. 2,200,902. Go back to the right again. 2,200,902. But now compare Biden numbers. On the left, 1,992,356. And on the right, ta-da! 2,130,695. So not a single new vote found for Donald Trump, but what was it, 138,000? I could do the math. approximately 138,000 new votes found for Biden. Just poof, just happened. Okay, thanks. So close up this, but don't close the whole thing. So go back, so to speak. So show me that last tweet, and let's work our way backwards. So that's what Matt McOwie shows. But again, you've got the warning there.
Why was this information censored? He was just showing facts. And this is the ongoing issue with social media to persuade, manipulate, and create agendas or, avoid alternate opinions of the owners, I guess.
Stripped of information, how many people are liking, sharing it. And then you see the top, that arrow to the left, yeah, click it. So now you scroll up a little bit, your Matt Walsh's tweet here. Just scroll up a little so we can see, yeah. And then you've got Donald Trump, what is this all about? So we had to click, I think, 6 times to get to the information. How many people are going to click 6 times to get to the information? But let me read again the warning. Some or all of the content shared in this tweet is disputed and might be misleading about an election or other civic process. But really, it was only 2 snapshots of reported numbers from Michigan, a Democrat-controlled state.
Right.
So is it disputed in what way? Did the state not issue these numbers? If so, I'd like to know. Or might be misleading. What's misleading? The numbers are the numbers. There's not a lot of fudging there. It's like, scoring a sports game. Either you had the goal or the basket or whatever the sport is. Either, like the thing about sports is there's no BS in it, right?
It's basic math.
Either those votes were there or they're not. There's not. I mean, I don't care about your interpretation. Are those the numbers that really were reported by the state of Michigan or not? If they are the numbers that were reported by the state of Michigan, and then that fella just published them and said, look at this, there is nothing misleading about them. There is nothing disputable about them if these numbers were in fact issued by the state of Michigan. So Donald Trump, who spent a lot of time and money in Michigan, who won Michigan last time, simply has a 5-word question. What is this all about? And Trump says, that's disputed. Click it. And you need to click 6 times before you get to the facts. And like I say, as of right now, Trump is trailing in Michigan. Trump is trailing in Wisconsin. Trump is ahead in Pennsylvania, but they've...
This is from yesterday, so there's obviously some changes that have taken place. Well, I don't know. I have to look. It seems that, there's a new fabrication of something coming up from day to day, and there's investigations, hopefully, as there should be.
Already announced that they have found, quote, millions of new votes. Millions, which is quite something, given the size of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania 2016 vote results. I'm going to see what they were in 2016. In 2016, the grand total of votes in Pennsylvania was 6 million. So how many votes do they have right now? It's about 5.5 million, is that right? So there could be another million votes, sure. There could be another 2 million votes, millions of votes. I'm skeptical, though, because the Attorney General of that state announced in advance, before the polls had closed, that the Democrats would win. He didn't say could win or should win or are on track to win or he thinks they'll win. He said they would win. How did he know? He said if all the votes are counted, the Democrats will win. How did he know that? Why would he say that? And he said that in his capacity as a senior officer in the government of Pennsylvania. I think that the vote is being stolen.
I think
And I
so
think that
too.
the kind of people who would pack the court, as they threaten to do, who would challenge the very concept of the Electoral College, as they do constantly, who would change the rules in the Senate to under Obama for their own advantage. I think those kind of people would literally do anything to win. The kind of people who would accuse Brett Kavanaugh of being a serial rapist, a gang rapist in college, the kind of people who would make that up, the kind of people who, I mean, this is Jussie Smollett territory. These people will do anything and say anything. They'll do anything and say anything to try and knock out a Supreme Court judge, Brett Kavanaugh. Do you doubt they wouldn't do as much or more to knock out a president? They would do anything.
If they get away with this, then there's more that they'll try to get away with. It won't end because it's just too easy. Everyone's looking the other way. No one's saying anything. It's extremely convenient. Here's another interesting. I just want to say, this is Rebel News, by the way, and I think he did an excellent job. As I said, 2 + 2 = 4. It's basic math. If you're going to show numbers and then being told that it's controversial because you're questioning why the numbers don't look accurate, then why are they blocking that on social media? The agenda is just very, very obvious. I suppose that, we didn't have to buy into social media, did we? I mean, we kind of applied and participated. We signed up for it. They are privately owned. I guess they have their choice. And it looks like they're censoring the president. So if they're censoring a president, what else are they doing? It's just something to think about. This video is called Steamable, and I'm going to play this one. And very, very interesting.
There's been a site called the American Report. It's got a woman named Mary Fanning's done some incredible reporting, particularly about.
So this is a war room pandemic.
A guy named Dennis Montgomery. What is it? This thing that's going around about this project or this system called Hammer. Explain to our audience what this is and why it should be of such concern to people in this current situation that we're in.
Yes, I will, Steve. The fact is that Hammer is what we call a SIGINT, a Signals Intelligence Program, that the NSA came up with years ago. The CIA picked it up under the Obama administration, and I broke it in March of 2017 about what they were doing on the Russian hoax. But the fact is, the Obama administration took this system and they put in an application in this SIGINT program called Scorecard. And Scorecard changes.
So he's talking about Hammer and Scorecard.
Changes votes at a certain point in the voting stream. And if I can, and by the way, the Obama administration used it in the 2012 election.
So Scorecard changes votes.
In Florida. So both Obama and Biden are very familiar with this. Now I've got to make a quote.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's important that we all understand it. It's by Joseph Stalin. I consider it completely unimportant who in the party will vote or how. But what is extraordinarily important is this: who will count the votes? Now, Steve, we have a desperate
Who will count the votes? It's an interesting quote. So people are doing the voting, but in the end, can we trust the individuals that are doing the counting?
Democratic Party that will do anything to bring the country to a totalitarian state, and as far left as they want. They used it in the primaries, and Bernie lost to Biden because they used it in the primaries. So it is ready to go. I just found out about this yesterday. Sydney has played a very important role in assisting me and Mary Fanning and Alan Jones in trying to get the word out so the American people know all this enthusiasm you're talking about in Pennsylvania gets changed very quickly with this software program that switches 3% of the votes.
A software program that switches 3% of the votes. This is a digital manipulation.
Okay. Hang over a second. Hang over a second. General McInerney, I want you to give just quickly your bona fides. Talk just briefly. Give me a minute for the audience on your career.
Okay, 35 years in the Air Force. I ended up the number 3 man in the Air Force in the headquarters. I had 4 tours in Vietnam. I commanded the raid on Tripoli in 1986. We attacked Tripoli from my headquarters in England. I was then the Vice Commander-in-Chief of U.S. Air Forces Europe, and then the Commander of Alaskan Command and Alaska NORAD region. So I had a very extensive operational career, and I'm in the cloud business now, and that's why I'm so intimately familiar with what Hammer and Scorecard can do, and nobody knows it. Nobody knows.
Okay, now I'll
See, he's concerned. He's been on the inside. He knows what's going on. And this program, Hammer and Scorecard, he knows this is very, 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 very advanced. And nobody knows about it. No one has any awareness. And so if you don't have an awareness of how things are manipulated, then you don't know what to look for.
You're one of the most revered officers in the U.S. Air Force, an unbelievable career. I want to go to Hammer. Hammer was the single most important and the single most sophisticated, basically, system that came up after 9/11 for really intelligence or counterintelligence about radical Islamic Jihad and the ability to monitor that. Is that how the beginning of this started? Was a foreign surveillance system that allowed the national security and intelligence apparatus to watch our enemies. Is that how this thing started?
That's how it started, Steve. Very sophisticated, very, very capable. And the fact is, it was then adopted with the software packages like on your iPhone to the voting business. And it was to be used, and it was used in foreign countries. And so it was then moved over into the CIA, and they started looking at U.S. citizens. That is illegal. The CIA cannot look at U.S. citizens, and only the FBI with the proper FISA warrants, etc. Sydney knows all about this. You know all about this. And it is extremely important that this was taken out of the CIA when the Obama administration left. They used some kabuki to get it out. They still have it up and running. We know where it is located. We know it's active tonight. It's active. They've been looking at a whole host of things, as has the DNC, using false IPs. And they are looking around, and they are trying to set up this voting thing that happens on Tuesday night. It's going to look good for President Trump, but they're going to change. And that's the danger that America and everybody must realize.
I just want to mention, we got about 2 minutes here. In the next segment, Sydney and I are going to drill down on this a little bit more, and we're going to talk about some polling other things, but hopefully get you back before the end. Dennis Montgomery. The last time the audience heard about Dennis Montgomery, he was being rounded up at his house. He had 47 hard drives, I think he had taken from Fort Meade. How does Dennis Montgomery fit into this story?
He's a genius, and he loves America. Dennis invented him. Dennis invented Scorecard. He's the programmer that made all this happen, and he's on our side at great personal risk, as well as he hasn't benefited financially from it. He is an absolute genius. And so he's extremely important to what's going on. It would have happened in 2016, Steve, except something happened to it that night when the Obama crowd and the Democrats tried to use it. I can't talk about that.
Dennis Montgomery is like the character Nash in Beautiful Mind. I mean, this is one of the smartest programmers ever. He wrote this incredibly sophisticated program. And that's why this event in August of 2015, when he was basically gathered up, and it had the 47 hard drives. Heck, we got one hard drive from Hunter, and we're still going through information. He did this, as we now know, he did this to essentially save his country and expose what's going on. What was he trying to expose, and what should the American people know today on the eve of this election that 250 flag officers sent a letter to President Trump, said it's the most important, including my old boss, Tom Hayward, who said it's the most important election in the history of the Republic. What is Montgomery trying to tell us? What is the message we need to hear today?
Well, he's telling us right now, Steve, that we are on the verge of being compromised through cyber warfare, of which he is a master of.
We are being compromised by cyber warfare. This is what's been going on. And this is why the world seems very upside down, because they're pulling the wool over our eyes. This is the fleecing of the people.
Most brilliant person in our country on cyber warfare, and they have used this. They moved it from the intelligence, a very highly secure program, and they've moved it from there over to political treachery. And that's what it is.
Agendas.
They moved it out of the CIA. They moved it for their political use, as they have politicized the intelligence community, as we saw in the Russian hoax, and what they've done to General Flynn. All these things are on this force that you and Sydney have been talking about, that want to change America from what it is. It goes back to the Electoral College, to the Supreme Court. All these things are bundled to change America from being a democratic republic to a totalitarian regime. That means a socialist country, which the next step is communism. And that's why there can be no agreement between this Democratic Party and the Republican Party. One choice is freedom, one choice is communism. It's that simple.
You going to be able to stop Hammer in Scorecard?
We intend to stop Hammer and Scorecard.
Sidney Powell says it. It's take that to the bank, okay? Future FBI Director, Sidney Powell. Can't wait for the confirmation hearings.
Hey, I'd like to say what Leslie Anderson said: have faith, pray, and let's all meet at the pass tomorrow night.
What is it, stick to the plan or whatever it is? Let's blow some heads up right now, okay. General Mac.
Okay, so that was America's Voice. Pretty revealing of what's been going on, and they still weren't able to quite stop this, although this is what's happening right now. They couldn't stop the use of Hammer and Scorecard. So, and you saw what I said regarding the message from Rudy Giuliani, who is deeply looking into a lot of the mishandling of the ballots and the miscounting and the fictitious numbers that we're looking at that, as I said, statistically are impossible to acquire. You can't have over 100,000 votes in an election and only one party is recognized. It just doesn't happen that way. Armed federal agents can be sent to examine ballot counting locations, Justice Department tells prosecutors. This came out today, and it's from the Daily Caller. Department of Justice sent a memo to prosecutors Wednesday saying it could send armed agents to ballot counting locations to investigate potential voter fraud, the New York Times reported. while federal law prohibits armed troops or law enforcement from stationing at any place in any place an election is held unless force is determined necessary. The Department of Justice believes the law allows agents to station at places that are counting votes following the election, 3 unnamed officials familiar told a New York Times. So essentially, what Rudy Giuliani was saying is they were telling people you have to stand 20 feet away if you want to see us count the ballots. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Are you serious? So, it's gone to this level where, they have to bring in someone a little stronger to be able to review what's going on. I mean, gosh, if you're going to get an audit, someone's going to be sitting next to you and looking at your taxes. They're right there. They're not 20 feet away. I mean, it's the same thing. This is on behalf of the people. It's not just two parties involved. There are millions and millions of people that have the right to know that first of all, that their vote went to where it was supposed to go, and that that's another thing that people are saying, that they went to vote, they followed up with their mail-in vote and discovered that it went to the other party. Here again, that's fraud. Who's doing this? The process of mailing votes have been a burden, have been very difficult for the United States Post Office, which already carries a heavy load as it is, and many of those workers work very hard, and many of them are tired. I wouldn't imagine that they're necessarily corrupt, but they just try to get everything out and trying to cover themselves and make themselves not look so bad. But this was quite a burden that was placed on them because of the restrictions of having all these people, going to vote, considering what's going on with the pandemic. So it further complicated everything, but also created a window of opportunity for very, very questionable activity. The statute does not prevent armed federal law enforcement persons from responding to, investigate, or prevent federal crimes at closed polling places or at other locations where votes are being counted. Senior DOJ official Richard P. Donahue told prosecutors in an email Wednesday, according to the Times. This is related to the Pennsylvania judge hands Trump a win in election lawsuit, which is then overruled by the state Supreme Court. The DOJ official said Thursday the memo was sent in anticipation of disruption. The DOJ wants to make sure that it was clear federal law enforcement is available to help state and locals. The official said the DOJ was not sending federal law enforcement anywhere, just making sure state and local officials knew federal government was available to help. Donahue's message to prosecutors comes as the 2020 presidential election remains undecided, according to the Decision Desk HQ. Key battleground states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, have been contested since Tuesday. Related, Trump launches last-ditch illegal effort in 4 states. President Donald Trump campaign has filed lawsuits related to vote tallies in multiple states. Trump has tweeted several allegations of voter fraud in swing states, many of which have been flagged by Twitter, and we just saw that. Elections are a state matter, and we have authority as state officials over anyone trying to enter locations where ballots are being counted, Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey told the Times. Anything else is a radical reinterpretation of the law. States can handle elections, and we will ensure that the people decide the outcome. I think that's quite interesting. First of all, it's coming from Massachusetts, and Massachusetts always votes Democratic. It doesn't matter who is running for office. They always, I don't know, they have some kind of weird mindset that it's a required thing. If you live in Massachusetts, you have to be a Democrat. I don't know if it's some kind of mind control. There's a large portion of students in Massachusetts, but as a Bostonian myself, I always felt the annoying pressure of having to be a democratic state, and that relieves anyone from doing their homework and actually looking and researching what people are doing. And I think that's a high level of ignorance, in my opinion. And for such an educated state, it's shocking how ignorant they are regarding that fact. Vanita Gupta, the former acting head of the DOJ Civil Rights Division, said that the email might be a messaging tactic from Attorney General William Barr, according to the Times. Lawfully, the Justice Department can't interfere in the vote count, enter polling places, or take ballots, even in the course of an investigation, Gupta told the Times. Really? When you have extraordinary numbers that don't make any sense, that don't add up, and are completely an impossible statistical impossible for anyone to assess in a normal way, then if all of these red flags go up, that's when some of the normal process gets overridden, because it's not looking right. And it's not just not looking right by a small margin, but a huge margin. And so the DOJ didn't immediately respond to the Daily Caller's News Foundation request for the comment. Of course not. And they're calling it a last-ditch effort. Well, I don't know. I think this should go on for a long time, in my opinion, as far as questioning why they think they have the right to do this to people. And also, I think every nation should question. I saw someone mention in one of the last videos that I did that they experienced this in their government. It was a South American country that they're referring to, and they know the game. They've seen the game before. That never makes it right. It doesn't make it right at all. The universe sees all things. And if people say, well, oh, we're in a slave system, we deserve this, that we should, look the other way and be smart about things. I mean, there's a lot of different schools of thought. People are fair because of oppression. I think that, if you trust that the universe is here for you, if you go within and you find your deeper truth, then the right thing to do is to speak up and share or do whatever you need to do, not to argue with people, but to present facts, and also ask that the veil of illusion be removed. We're in a place, in a time when there's heavy mind control and people can't see the forest through the trees. They really can't see the obvious. They're really having a hard time. And that's the mass population. And then there are the predators who are taking advantage of that fact, manipulating the people, and looking to destroy everything that we have. They're lining their pockets in the process. They're advancing. They're getting all sorts of things. And while the rest of the nation sleeps, they're doing even worse than we can imagine. It's time to speak up. Thank you for listening. Let's all stay vigilant and set the highest intention for humanity. Have a good evening, everyone.